Hi, everybody. Happy holidays. Thank you so much for having me back. It is such a privilege. I thoroughly have enjoyed the music this morning, being in prayer time and being in community with everyone. And it really is a privilege. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And so, listening this morning in the prayer room, and we were talking about the parade and looking at the festivities and the beautiful pictures. And I wrote down in my notes right here so many angels and beautiful smiling faces. It is so perfect, right, for the season and also a reflection of our unity community that we are the ones who are here to foster in peace, hope, love, and joy. And so today's talk is on the sacred season, and yes, it is. It is the season for celebration, for the Christ light that is coming, and also. I'm a person of sort of balance, right? Because I'm a Libra. I'll just admit that. And in the midst of celebration, not everyone experiences the seasons in the same way. And so I want to acknowledge some of us who may be going through this season in the midst of all the exterior things that we see, the joy, the giving, the hope, and all of that. There might be a space in our heart that we get to look at and to embrace that may not feel up to par, whatever that may be, right? For some of us who are introverts, we come into the season and we see the lights and the joy and all of that stuff. And all we want to do is embrace the time of silence and reflection. And I want to be the first to say that it is all good. It is all perfect because if we're going to acknowledge the outer, we have definitely got to acknowledge the inner. And so, whatever it is the right and perfect time because it is what's present for us. And as we know, the present is the only moment that we have. So, what is up for us right now is up to be healed. And so, today's talk is on and about the sacred season because Advent brings us closer and closer to Christmas, Christmas, and the winter solstice nudges us. Um, it kind of reminds us that Earth has this cyclical rhythm that even though there is darkness and night, there's also the light. And it kind of feels like the invitation for us to go deeper into this walk of life that we call sacred rhythms, integrating the dark and the light, allowing hope and faith to quietly take root within our being, and also to allow peace to settle within us deeper and deeper, regardless of whatever is happening around us. So, so now we are currently living in this sacred season, and it is so because we declare it as so. It's the power of our word and our intention that it is the sacred season. And I'm using kind of this holiday season to declare it sacred, but it's the power of our word. We can do it any time with the shift of our consciousness. And so the theme for this week is peace. And it is a peace that arises from hope and the promise of transformation. This is our journey of Advent, right? It's found in this season and in the rhythms of nature itself. And so the word Advent it comes from a Latin root, which means coming or arrival. And so it really is a time of preparation for us. So traditionally, it marks two key events, the birth of Jesus and the second coming of Christ. Both are steeped in the promise of hope, of peace, of joy, of love, and represented in our lighting of every week of the Advent candles. Both of these events can be viewed, of course, from a metaphysical standpoint, and it has profound symbolic meaning on our spiritual journey. And so both of these invitations is to awaken and for us to embody the divine potential within each and every single one of us. So the birth of Jesus is metaphysically, it represents the awakening of Christ consciousness, that divine essence or spark that resides in every individual. It is the moment when we recognize our inherent connection to spirit. And this realization can be, I guess, represented in birthing of the manger of our hearts, right? This event symbolizes the birthing, the emergence of the light amidst the darkness, and hope in times of uncertainty, and that amazing possibility of divine transformation every single day of our lives. So the second coming of Christ metaphysically, it's not an external event, but it's the continual unfolding and the deepening of this awareness of our oneness with all that is, with the allness of all. It's the realization that Christ consciousness is always present, always available, guiding us toward a life of peace, love, joy, and spiritual abundance. So it's in the sacred season that you're invited, not just to do the exterior celebrations, the external, which is really, really important because it brings us together in community. There's also this deeper invitation to really show up and to bring it, right? To bring that divine essence, our highest, most loving selves into everything that we do. It's in how we think, in the words that we speak, and the way that we act in the world. And it's not waiting simply for something to happen outside of us. It really requires that inner inertia, um, that light that is within each and every single one of us. So, on a deeper level, Advent invites us to awaken to that light within. And this inner journey really mirrors the spiritual preparation that we need during times of waiting and of uncertainty. And so last week, Reverend Debris talked about hope and faith, which is the foundation of any transformation. It invites us to recognize that divine spark, even in times of darkness. And this week, we're talking about faith, which requires us to cultivate an inner stillness. This is our practice of stillness, trusting the unfolding of Spirit's plan. And so as we take the season, sort of like a walk home to the Christ presence within us all, we kind of lean into, maybe even fall back on to the peace that surpasses all understanding. So it is this light within us that gets to grow as we get silent, as we reflect, as we simply pause to honor the sacredness of this season. Which brings me into the next segment of this Advent process. I kind of looked at the winter solstice rather. It is, many of us know, it's the longest night and the shortest day of the year. Excuse me. It's a natural metaphor for resilience, for renewal, and for the triumph of light over darkness. And in yesteryears, in ancient cultures, it was a time to celebrate the return of the sun, because the sun, as we know, is pivotal, very important to our existence. But it is time to celebrate this assurance that light will prevail and it will return as it does in our inner practice. To know that the solstice teaches us to embrace the darkness, not as a place to be fearful of, or a place where we flinch and then we avert it, but to really see it as this fertile space for transformation. And if you can take a visual or gleam from the wisdom of seeds and how they get planted in the darkness, it becomes this fertile space for growth and breaking through that outer layer. And in fact, that's this season right here. We're in that darkness space. Um, so really, this time is we're called to pause, to reflect, and to prepare for the light that Christ's coming within us that shines ever brightly. So, Myrtle Fillmore, one of the co founders of Unity, says that in the silence of the soul, the greatest work is done. And in every service of our tradition, we have this period of silence that we get to practice and cultivate. And it's in the stillness when the earth herself slows down. It's that space of deep listening where we get to just quiet down and be in the stillness and tap into our knowing, our faith, our hope, our peace, to trust the rhythms of nature and spirit. And so the solstice teaches us that darkness is not the absence of light, but really a very necessary part of our growth. So, yeah, and as we get to cultivate this peace, um, we get to celebrate, lean into the energy of the exterior world because it's beautiful. I love this season. And also when it gets to be too much or time, time to know that we get to go into silence and also give thanks and to realize that our gratitude is timely because it reminds us to seek that peace within us, to go into the silence and to simply breathe. And some of us who have been practicing silence for a very long time, sometimes, even with the best of intentions, there's this resistance of going in the silence. Maybe we think we don't have enough time or we just can't be still. And just to know and be grateful to know that silence is really where the work is. And so, in the sacred season, we're reminded that even in life's longest nights, the Christ light within us never dims. And the solstice invites us to honor this light, trusting that brighter days are ahead. Indeed, it is. And so I want to just say one last thing about Advent and winter solstice, that it beautifully mirrors one another and offers to us and teaches us to, number one, to wait with peace, trusting that even in the stillness, transformation is unfolding. It's that waiting time, that seed time, right? Number two, that we get to prepare our hearts and our minds to let go of the noise and to open to renewal, to that space um, of silence, of God's hum, is what I call it. And then number three, to embrace the birth of peace, whether it's through the Christ child within or the returning of the light of the season. Just like the earth, we are part of this sacred, sacred rhythm. And even in our peace song, now I'm going to say peace begins with fill in the blank, and we all probably know the answer to that, right? So I want to complete today's lesson by maybe affirming together that peace begins with me. So I'm going to invite you to say that together with me. Peace begins with me together. Peace begins with me. And so it is. Amen.